uh, presentation um, for Team 2 for emergency preparedness. That's our project that we've been working on. This is our critical path diagram. I wanted to start with this because this kind of gives a good general outline of what we're working towards. So, and all the different things that might not be necessary but might help in our preparation for any kind of natural disasters. So we want to pick 1 to 2 disasters to prepare for each of us, research them, determine what supplies are necessary, and organize these supplies and make them easily acceptable if we can. We want to record the details in each step to help others prepare for disasters as well. These extra things that are not critical but they might help are working, saving up extra money, attending an emergency preparedness class, grabbing a pre-made 72-hour kit. I'm sure you've seen those at Desert Book, or even Walmart, I think, has some too. Teach an emergency preparedness class. That might really help and get additional insight from other classmates. Our need is because natural disasters can happen at any minute. They're sudden, and if we prepare for them now, then we won't need to prepare for them in a rush. We don't want to have to be preparing for this emergency situation and be rushing to do that. We want to make sure that we have a step-by-step guide for others for these natural disasters. We want to make sure that we act on this research that we've done. We're going to spend 2 weeks researching the disasters that may occur in the areas, spend 1 week organizing and purchasing survival supplies, and then the last week creating a step-by-step guide for others to help them in their preparations. We want to be out of our houses within 10 to 15 minutes with valuables, but also with our necessary supplies that we're putting together. This is our scope. We want it necessary, feasible, prioritized, and verifiable and unambiguous. Necessary, we really want to keep our family and friends safe and alive. We don't want to be in full panic mode when we're going, otherwise we might miss something or forget something. Feasible kind of depends on your personal situation. That'll just, it's open for interpretation really, however you feel your level of preparedness needs to be. It's prioritized. The scope is narrowed down to 1 to 2 disasters per group member, and given priority, instead of focusing on great, huge, like every event, what might happen in Idaho might not happen in Florida. So we might want to just make sure that it's good for us individually as well. Verifiable, we want to run through test scenarios to make sure that they're reasonable, that we can make it work and everything is putting into action, and we can get in and out of our house in the time frame listed. We'll talk about those a little later on. And unambiguous, this will be stated by which disasters we're researching and how we can prepare for them. We'll go through this a little later as well. This is our work breakdown structure. We want to have a plan, supplies, and testing like we talked about earlier. We want to make sure we have everything planned out, budgeted for, and organized, and supplies determined for whichever natural disaster we're preparing for. We want to run through all our scenarios like we were talking about and just make sure that it's understood by all parties who are involved. You want to make sure you have a plan that will keep you, your family, and your friends healthy, dry, and safe, away from harm. If you're staying where you are, make sure everything is readily available. You want to make sure your supplies will last at least 72 hours. It's important to assure that all the supplies that you needed are stored wherever appropriate for your personal situation. And you want to make sure it's done well in advance to any of the natural disasters that we're preparing for. If evacuation is needed, you want to make sure it's in a place you can grab it quickly to get out. Following all our preparations, we'll go into the testing phases. Our first test will be completed in an afternoon, and a friend will send a text to the group reporting that their disaster is occurring right now in their location. They will then report back to see how long it takes for them to either leave their home in the case of a fire or prepared to be snowed in or flooded. The goal is to be able to evacuate a fire in under 5 minutes, hopefully with an emergency kit, because it takes 2 to 10 minutes to pass out from smoke. For a snowstorm, we need to know wherever the closest emergency shelter is to evacuate in the event we lose power or heat. And in the event of a flash flood, we need to find higher ground, hopefully grabbing our emergency kit on the way. And we just want to make sure we're not driving through moving water. Test number 2 would be having a family member, friend inspect our emergency kit and plans to get a better outside opinion on this situation and per disaster, and let us know if any improvements can be made. This is our quality chart. It's just a good way to score how our project is going, and a good way to measure all of our key items here. As with any project, there's always risks. There's a possibility that our project might not be completed within the 4-week time period. We want to keep a budget of $200 per group member, but sometimes that's hard due to financial obligations and each person's individual situations might not be able to do that. The supplies needed might not all be obtained by the time the emergency situation comes about, and we might not have enough material to draw from research for different types of natural disasters. Additional risk factors would be in the event of a fire, your valuables might be stored in the area that the fire has been spread to already. In the case of a forest fire, you have to you might have to change your evacuation plan. Flash flooding, your pathway that you had planned to get out might be flooded already. You might have a power outage, which will hinder your awareness of any direction you should go. Any other unforeseen disaster happening could be that you might not have planned for, could happen. Any food that you set out could have spoiled or leaked out. So these are just some factors to keep in mind. We want to make sure we have all resources, and we broke these down a little more detailed in this slide here. Electronic communication devices. You want to make sure you have your cell phones and chargers, computers, hand radio, portable AM/FM radio. If you have mobile data, a hotspot connection is really beneficial if it's available. Any Wi-Fi connectivity. Any supplies for any of these disasters that you might be going through. We'd want food. We'd want dry canned food or non-perishable items. A can opener if necessary. Water that's bottled or sealed. Filtering water bottles is a great idea. A first aid kit, including any bandages, creams, tapes, sewing kit, a flashlight, map, or GPS device. Backpack or carrying bag. You want that to have functional straps to ease in the carrying if transportation is not going to be available. Wool blankets or even space blankets, depending on the situation. Garbage bags, cash money would be a really good thing to keep in there, just in case you needed it elsewhere. As you're evacuating, you might not have your wallet with you. Making sure all your team members have extra, if they need any extra help, they're helped. Any additional research materials, time set aside for these, and then also a location and planned time scheduled, and maybe having this printed out, even like a map printed out and put in each of these bags for all of your family members or friends, if necessary, in case your electronic communication devices don't work anymore. So the time we estimated to gather these supplies would take anywhere from an hour to around 5 hours to buying all the individual food items, including water supply. Gathering other supplies like first aid kit, hygiene products should take around 2 hours. And important documents or maps, maybe an hour. we also want to make sure we have the time set aside to organize the supplies and get it all ready. So our estimated gathering supplies and putting it together should take anywhere from 4 to 8 hours. Here's a little timeline outline on our Gantt chart here showing how many days we want to spend with each section of our project here, and kind of our good our milestones to meet down there at the bottom. Here's our cost outline. This is kind of a general rough estimate costing on all of our supplies that we would need. As you can see, we have one here for a family of one person individually, or a family of 4 as well. In our cost management plan, we want to make sure we are using the correct units of measurement. So in our project here, there's a monetary value, which is the money used to purchase the supplies. The second unit of measure is the hours it will take to put towards this project, and the people's hours individually. The level of precision, we want to make sure that we have rounded up to allow for any budgeting over the actual costs. We want to make sure that hours can change if needed, that we can have additional time necessary. And if there's no preparing if there's no prior preparing, that we want to make sure that the hours towards the project increases. The level of accuracy, we want to make sure that we get the best range of costs for our supplies. You might have to go to multiple stores to get the best deal on things, but you want to make sure they're functional and very good supplies that will last. And these are our references here. If you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. Thank you.